will not conduct a hasty rush to the exit. We'll do it responsibly, deliberately, and safely. And we will do it in full coordination with our allies and partners.
But a few months later, as Taliban fighters were descending upon Kabul, the Biden administration was scrambling to figure out what to do, how to get thousands of Americans and vulnerable Afghan allies out. Axios obtained leaked notes from a White House Situation Room meeting on August 14th, which highlights how senior administration officials were still discussing and assigning basic actions involved in the mass evacuation. Let's bring in former State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus. Morgan, good to have you with us today. So what stood out to you? This report came out from Axios last night. Thank you. What stood out to you when you read these leaked notes from a security official?
You know, I mean, the first thing I thought, Martha, when I saw the headline is that I don't need leaked notes to know that this was a disaster. I saw 13 dead Americans, and that's how I know that the Biden administration completely screwed up our exit from Afghanistan. It was an international embarrassment what they did. There's clearly an analysis paralysis issue going on at the NSC. This was very endemic of how this same team worked in the Obama administration as well. Listen, the bottom line is Biden, as Ratcliffe just said before me, Biden ignored the intelligence, or he didn't pay attention to it, or maybe he just didn't believe it. I don't know the answer. But they clearly played down the threat up until they withdrew troops. They decided to withdraw them during the middle of fighting season. They decided to close bases and to take out American troops before making sure that every American was out of Afghanistan. So they clearly did not plan for every contingency, Martha. And in fact, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. I believe there'll be a hearing on the Hill about this today. But I think a lot of us, in fact, all of us, every American deserves to know how many Americans that Joe Biden still has left behind in Afghanistan. We deserve to know what the true ISIS and al-Qaeda threats are. You know, around November, the intelligence community assessed that it could be like 6 to 12 months before ISIS-K could conduct attacks outside of Afghanistan. So is that still accurate? Is that still on pace? We were sold that they would be able to do over-the-horizon strikes that would supposedly stop these terrorist groups from attacking America. We haven't heard anything about that. So we have been told lie after lie after lie. We have never been given the full answer of how many Americans are left behind. And this is an epic disaster for the Biden administration that he is seeing in his poll numbers. But what's worse than what he's seeing in his poll numbers, Martha, is I think that just debilitating effect it has had on the morale of so many people in the military who fought in Afghanistan, only to see this president squander the blood and you know, the American lives that we left there.
Here is Senator Dan Sullivan on that earlier today. Watch.
In my view, the only reason this is classified is because it's a debacle that they don't want the American people to know. The American people need to know and understand what's going on. And I'll tell you which group of Americans in particular: American veterans.
You know, you mentioned the 13 dead Americans at the airport at the Abbey Gate, and the president made it clear that there would be retaliation at a place and time of our choosing, I believe were his words. And that subject has been completely dropped, Morgan. I haven't heard anything about what will be the retaliation for the deaths of those 13 young service members.
That's right. And not only that, what we did have, and the New York Times detailed this in really excellent reporting, what we apparently did have, Martha, was a botched attack that ended up killing someone that had, you know, nothing to do. It was like the guy was delivering water. It had nothing to do with ISIS. And that's right. And so ever since that happened, we've not heard about over-the-horizon strikes. We haven't heard any sort of strategy from the administration on how they're going to counter the threat of ISIS and al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. You know, remember that this is a failed state, and guess what is right next to them? Pakistan. This is a state that has nuclear weapons, right? And terrorists have long said, and Mike Waltz, congressman, has talked about this a lot on Fox, terrorists have long said that they would like to get a hold of a nuclear weapon. Well, now you have basically a terrorist state that Biden has enabled with our precipitous withdrawal. And it's not just the withdrawal, by the way. In the Trump administration, Mike Pompeo and our team, we negotiated what we thought was going to be a peace peaceful into the war in Afghanistan. So we were also not arguing that we needed to keep troops in Afghanistan for forever. But what we were arguing was a responsible withdrawal. Under Mike Pompeo, we had to get 100,000 Americans from around the world home during the international lockdown during COVID. So this can happen, right? We had to get 100,000 Americans, not just from one country, but from all over the world. So this just, I think that speaks to the fact of what a planning failure this is. And at some point, they need to be clear with the American people and let us know how many Americans we left behind enemy lines.
Well, we know there's still veterans groups who are getting people out as they can and as they're able to, and they have done yeoman's work on that. For the administration's part, they say that this report from Axios was cherry-picked, that there was a lot of planning that was going on prior to that, and they think it's, you know, essentially an unfair characterization of where they were. But as you say, you can look at the facts, look at the people who were, you know, hanging on to airplanes on the way out. But Morgan, thank you very much. Great to see you.